Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and GreenSunsZenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or CardHoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with a donation deck list. This is from CardHoarder, version 1 of 2 Maverick lists that I'll be playing thanks to their donation. This is green-white Maverick with the small splash for black. The small splash for black in the main deck is for Grist, and then in the sideboard we obviously have Thoughtseize, which I think are probably two of the cards that you think about the most when you think of the black splash, especially the light black splash. So very happy to see that. Hey Dooming, hope you're doing well. I really liked the deck you sent me based around, I wish I remembered the name of the enchantment. I believe it was called, I think it's Sacred Ground. Squandered resources. Quickly, here we go. Squandered Resources, which is a sweet card. Side note, just quickly, Squandered Resources is a black and a green enchantment for a black and a green, sorry. Sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type of the sacrificed land could produce. Play its ability as a mana source. So you kind of try to go all in on adding a bunch of mana, sacking them all to get an extra mana, and then getting those lands back into play, and hopefully having something that either pings or gains life as you do it, which is really cool. I really liked the thought around it. Maverick doesn't really have that, but we do have things like Knight to go and find lands, which is important here because the 61st card is Mazavith, which is obviously pretty nice in this metagame. Things like Frog, a lot of the blue-black creatures, it's pseudo removal for. Archon of Cruelty is a little bit awkward, but yeah, I'm pretty happy to see how Maze goes. Hey, very cool to get a second year event. That is actually a really good finish, so you should be really proud of that. The list here is a Stoneblade list. So we do have 3 Stoneforge Mystics, 1 Jitte, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice, 1 Kaldra. I do like the Kaldra inner version with Mother of Runes because you can obviously just do one of the most unfair things that Death and Taxes does, which is turn 1 Mum, turn 2 Stoneforge, get Kaldra, and then just have the sort of 4-turn clock. But we were playing around with the idea of pre-formal wear in this list as well, because pre-formal wear can also act like a Mother of Runes, where your first Stoneforge goes and get pre-formal wear, your second one goes and gets Kaldra, and then if they do deal with Stoneforge, then at least you have, you know, pre-formal to get it back, and then find the Kaldra with the same one if you want. So I think that's pretty cool. We don't have the ways to flicker it like Death and Taxes does in things like Flicker Wisp and Urion, so we went with the Sword of Fire and Ice, which I still really like. I like that Sword makes everything in this deck a real threat. Birds of Paradise does need the Sword to attack. The Jitte alone won't be enough, or you'll need Exalted along with Bird, but I'm pretty happy to see how that plays out. The mana base is 24 lands, obviously 1 is Mazavith, so 23. We do have Lush Portico as a Surveil land, which I really like. We have Nurturing Peatland as a draw land if needed. This deck isn't playing something like Ramanap or Renegade Rallier, which we could definitely keep in the back of our minds as, do we want this going forward? Would we like something like that? Which I typically do, but I'm also happy to keep testing lists that don't run it, because there was a time where sort of the green, white, and eye depths lists move away from Ramanap and did pretty well. So it could be a bit of a tunnel vision moment for me on potentially overvaluing Ramanap in certain metagames. The sideboard is pretty straightforward as well. 3 Force of Vigor and Collector Oof for the real fast, like Grimmonolith starts or the Blood Moon Chalice decks. Collector Oof still a really good GreenSunsZenith target. I will touch on as well, we are main decking Gadoktig, which I think is actually a really key change in what we're facing in the current metagame. Turning off Kozilek's Command out of Eldrazi is pretty sweet against some of the more Storm decks, turning off the ability for them to actually win with a lot of their a lot of the win cons are 4 mana, so I think Teak's pretty good there. It's obviously great against any sort of Jeskai deck. I'm happy to see it, turning off Prismatic Ending, Wrath of the Skies, if they're running Supreme Verdict Determinus, Leyline Binding. A lot of cards are turned off by Teague in that matchup, which is nice. And then Cradle Control, you're obviously hitting Green Suns and Natural Order, which is cool. So yeah, I think Teague is pretty nice. You do, of course, have the whole Green Suns synergy, but if you run the Oof in the main deck, you're also having issues with equipping equipment potentially. So I think Teague in the main deck is more than fine. 2 Chokes and a Carpet against the blue decks. Choke I've actually been really liking, especially against the blue black Reanimator deck as just another way to get there, so we'll see that. Hey, and One for Life. Yeah, big shout out to Carador for the choices in their... I just lost it, didn't I? For the choices in their basics. I very much appreciate the older style ones, and these two are 2 from Odyssey, which is cool. But yeah, obviously, Fairy Macabre I think is really well positioned. Thoughtseize, just turn 1 interaction. Mindbreak Trap for when we're on the draw is great against the sort of faster combo decks trying to get around things like blue-black. So yeah, like Script Ranger, obviously really great against blue-black if they don't have removal. Just keeps a lot of frogs from drawing cards, which is cool. Yeah, I'm keen to see how this plays out and just kind of get a little bit of a... Yeah, get back into the rhythm of things through a league. Big shout out to Anzi as well, who is doing a showdown event where you can actually, I believe if you go 5-0, you get a ticket, which is pretty cool. We are playing a Legacy League with play points. Nice. Gameplay, there we go. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're playing Eternal Weekend, let me know what you're looking to play. Or even if you aren't playing Eternal Weekend, what would you play? I'm seeing a lot of players definitely up in the air, mainly about, do I play what I know, or do I play what seems to be a top tier deck at the moment? So do I jump on Eldrazi, or do I jump on Reanimator or Nadu, or do I stick to my guns and play what I know? And I would typically say play what you know. I would say I regret when I try to metagame and just play the best deck and not play what I know. You don't often play the deck you know and then go, oh, I should have just played Eldrazi, because that's definitely a lot more of the unknown there. 3 lands, 4 spells, pretty much what I'm looking for in this sort of deck. Some sort of plan as well. Can be a little bit awkward when you have a deck with so many silver bullets, but I think traditionally 3 lands, 4 spells is where you're at with Mav. Sadly a mulligan, so Dryad Arbor and Kaldra already make this kind of a 5, and obviously no lands, so pretty happy to mull there. Okay, not the worst, obviously a little bit awkward, and doesn't really have that much of a plan other than if they're a mana acceleration deck, go after their mana early on with Swords and then Wasteland. Happy to keep this bottom of Swords. Have something for creature decks, have something for sort of unfair decks. A little bit of interaction in Wasteland, so can't be too unhappy. Okay. I'm pretty sure here they're going to take a Swords, and then we'll just reset the game with the Wasteland. Okay. Not really what we're after there. But to be fair, Nurturing Peatland is both our 3rd land, which is what we want, and then also it can just be cycled into a spell, hopefully down the line. I was not expecting Prismatic Ending. Huh. Prismatic Ending, Underground Sea, Thought Seas. I wouldn't think that Blue-Black Reanimator would play Prismatic Vista, just because Prismatic Vista can't find the Surveil land, which is pretty relevant. So that's very interesting. Okay, so we are running in this list 1 basic, 2 basics. So there's a few things to consider here. If we go for Forest into Noble, and they get rid of the Noble, and we draw Wasteland and they play Delver, we can't Swords and Wasteland same turn. I think we're pretty happy to go for Savannah here. Could go for Bayou, but we have the Peatland to turn on any black, so I'm happy to go for the Savannah. Using the Verdant as well, because the Windswept can go for either basic if needed. Okay. Not too phased by that. Cauldron not the greatest. Teague does mean that Force of Will might be turned off. And if it hits a Force and a Brainstorm, I'm pretty happy with that as well. So they do play Sewers, but play Vista. Very interesting. I do like the Dried Arbor this turn. Allows us to play a 3-drop next turn around Days. We can't really play around like another Bowmaster. If it eats removal, it eats removal. At least that clock isn't too quick here. And Fatal Push hitting Dried Arbor is pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that trade. This is always a tricky one where it's a case of, do I care about Tamiyo? And typically I don't. They know about the swords, so if they're holding Brainstorm, it kind of sucks, but I really want to use my mana efficiently, and if the Tamiyo starts attacking and getting clues, and they start drawing extra cards, then it's really going to be hard to get going. Yeah. Not too much I can do about this. Sadly, no Questing Beast either. They're on 0 cards, which is nice. We draw a 1 mana spell here, or creature. No. We don't want to draw a card either. Guess we kind of got to see what's happening. Guess that could be Scrib Ranger. Have we played a land this turn? Yeah, Krakus. Okay. So here I don't mind the chokes on the play. I wonder how much they're on the Reanimator plan. I do like the extra removal in Prismatic. Not a big fan of Cauldron because it's going to be hard to keep the Stoneforge alive. Liberator most likely, Teague most likely. The Mums on the Play I still really like. We do have the 4 Endurances, so the Carpet's also pretty interesting. I could see going down on a Stoneforge, just because these aren't too relevant, but they're nice to have. Even just the 1 Stoneforge, honestly. That's pretty nice. Like, Fairy... I'll have the 1. But the 1 scissor could be pretty nice just to have. Okay, happy to keep this. I think I'm happy just to go Forest off the go. I don't want to get like Fatal Pushed and then like Wastelanded before we get to 3 mana. Okay. I think we'll just be going for Surveil Land. Put that in the graveyard. Okay. Pretty happy just to try to get the choke down. Nice. I don't want to like open up the night just yet. Interesting. Really going all in on the frog. Okay. Start with the swords. Okay. Sometimes it's just that easy. But not always. On the draw. Could just be a knight. Choke obviously not the greatest either on the draw. I think we might just go down on a choke. But I don't want to overthink it. I think we're just going to run back what we do. It's always nice to know if one choke doesn't make it, you still have one in the deck. Just don't have both in the opener. Okay. A little bit awkward on mana. And against this deck, I really don't want to drop down. But I also feel like potentially Blue-Black has moved away from Wasteland and just gone for a really consistent mana base. And potentially that's why they're playing the Prismatic Vistas. I'm happy to keep it and then just upkeep. In their upkeep, use the once just to play around days a little bit. Okay, nice. Okay. That's pretty nice. That allows me to... I can just get basics here. This does stop Keen-Eyed next turn, which is a little bit rough, but we do have a second Swords coming. Okay. I don't think I can rely on Scrib Ranger to block. So I'm pretty happy there to use the sword instead of try to like tap out for 2 mana for Scrib Ranger and block. Opens you up to daze, opens you up to removal. Okay. I think here I'm happy to fetch for Lush and see if there's a land on top and just bin that. Grist is pretty good. And I really don't want them reanimating it, so I think I will keep it. And then probably here just pass with Scrib Ranger open. Okay. If I thought that they had days and they're putting it back with Brainstorm here, I could fetch for Dried Arbor and try to block. Ooh, aggressive. Nice. Yes, Scrib. This is what Legacy's all about. Okay. So I could fetch for Dried Arbor here, but I think we really need to go towards Bayou. Okay. Three cards left for them. So eating something here doesn't really do anything because they still have 3 cards for Frog. So I should just hold it up in case they have like Entomb Reanimate. That was a quick shuffle as well. Happy to eat something. They're on 2 cards. I'm happy to go for Knight and then Mum. Graveyard. Noble. Yeah, Frog does have a lot of play to it. I would say Frog is legacy, like legacy power level. Not too much we can do there. But yeah, I think potentially for blue-black, just hitting your removal is pretty important. But like, you know, Fatal Push being a really good removal piece against us for both hitting mana when tied with Wasteland or hitting just out our threats. Really hard to get an edge against it. Hey Morrison, very cool to see you. Yeah, the matchup can be pretty tight. Just a lot of unconditional removal. But I hope you're enjoying the deck. I wasn't too sure if Prismatic is so you have more access to black. Yeah, we brought in one fairy, but like this deck already plays for endurance in the main deck, which I think is enough, plus Keen-Eyed. But yeah, I find that typically the tempo one's a lot harder because there's so many more targets for like Swords to Plowshares. So you have less for for Frog, especially like Murktide or like if you're playing like Nethergoyf, reanimating our creatures. Yeah, Harbinger is also pretty brutal. Probably a good reason to go for basics early on as well, post-board. I wasn't too sure if you were on Wasteland or not until I guess the last match. All right, on the play, which is nice. With a tough one. I think we really want to mulligan this and try to move towards a 6 with mana acceleration. Not there, but I'm not a big fan of going to 5. If we lead on the plains, we can't be... Oh, okay. This is going to be tough. In that case, I am going to lead on the Savannah. So this is at the beginning of your upkeep. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top of your library. Exile the rest. Kind of like a small once. I honestly wouldn't mind. Oh no. Okay. I wouldn't mind getting the Teague into play. This does set us up to potentially draw into once or mana acceleration. No. Funnily enough as well, it's the only land that Script Ranger works with. Okay. Go with Teague. Really want to turn off the command. Hey Sam, welcome. Okay. I think here we just want to get the Jide down and then move towards getting in. They didn't attack as if they want to block, which makes me think they have a command in hand. They sometimes play Caracas in the sideboard. Thought Knot wouldn't be the worst here. An Exalted Creature wouldn't do too much either. Okay. I think here... I think we're just getting the Grist into play, to be honest. I think that's better than anything else. Yeah, played against Blue-Black Reanimator in the first. And got pretty beaten up, to be honest. But there's some good decisions to be made. Another land in the bin, which isn't too bad, especially having the Scrib Ranger here. This is most likely Devourer. We'll just get rid of the Jitte. Ah, Myco spawn. Okay. It's pretty brutal as well because it could keep us off being able to equip the Jitte. If there are, I would comment in the group. I don't have a spare one. Well, they didn't do anything with the mana. And they don't attack. Okay. So we know they have this. Oh, so they actually can't get rid of Jitte with this, which is nice because it's 0 colors. Okay. So we can't play the Scrib and also equip. We could play the Mum, sack it to Grist to hit the Sowing and then attack. I don't mind that. Play the Mum. Get rid of Mum. Hit this. Equip this. Attack for 1. Hit this. Can also exile the Teague here, which is a little bit rough. With the Devourer, I guess that's a good way to get rid of it. So like there is a world where you hold up the Caracas there instead. Playing the Mum, but then they have the blocker so you can't really attack. Okay. Yikes, all 4 wastelands. just block here. It doesn't have trample, which is good. Yeah. Very tough. I don't think we really want anything, which is really hard to say. Maybe the Thoughtseizers? Like, I think Thoughtseizer's better than some number of endurance. Definitely Mum as well. Like, Mum is a... like, it can hold legit, but that's not a great reason to keep it in. They could play some Dismember in the sideboards. Force doesn't really do anything. It might just be a Mum because it, yeah, can be a creature. Oof, I think just stops us a little bit more than it does them. Especially with the GD plan. Sadly a one-lander. Okay. We can keep this. Having the turn 1 Thoughtseize is nice. Put back the Dryad Arbor. Go for Bayou. Probably just want to get rid of this, to be fair. Wasteland's fine. Especially if we draw another land here. I mean, Knight's great as well. Go for Savannah. Play the Noble. Play the Noble just... I guess it's 1 mana. It's 1 damage anyway if we play either. I think it was a 1 Dismember. Do I care about that land? I think the land for us right now is more important. It's actually a pretty interesting question. Because I'm not playing the Knight into Dismember, and currently we only have 1, 2, 3 lands, so we would want a 4th. But then if they Dismember the bird, we're also way behind in mana. And hopefully, by keeping the Wasteland, they might think that, hey, we really need the mana here. Really want to fetch land. No. That is still mana. Yeah, it's crazy how much this matchup has turned. Typically with Knight and mana, I was so happy to have it. Oof. I think sadly here we just have to take out the Ancient Tomb. We can't allow them to have that mana. Even though I know they still have the Eye. Maybe it's a case if they have so much mana that it's not worth it. Both Dismember's gone. Happy to stay put. Thanks. I think we could play this out, but I don't think there's too much to get out of it. I think we're honestly just a little bit too far behind. We'll see. Have this to bounce. Okay. This is where like a Plague Engineer is kind of cool. With things like Eldrazi spawns, you have the 1/1 insects, I'm going to say, from the enchantment creature that gets played in Nadu. Yeah. I think we can stop the beating there. Tough. Definitely two decks you're going to play against a lot. Both online and if you're going to Eternal Weekend. So like maybe extra like, it's really tricky. Against that matchup, I do like having a Ramanap style card and obviously more like Path to Exiles on the board, but online you definitely could think about combo a little bit more, so I can see where like the traps might be taking that slot. And then like Prismatic Ending being a Path to Exile in the matchups that we've played could be a little bit better in flexibility. But yeah, Command especially. Really, really strong. Really great way to get ahead. We are playing once, correct. All right. On the play, pretty happy to keep this. 2 spell lands. We have the ones to look for, potentially mana acceleration, hold the Green Suns, and there it is. Nice. In the O2 bracket, you never know what you're up against. Flooded Strand. Okay. Not too unhappy with that. If we draw a 3-drop here, a little bit more than a 3-drop, I think I'm happy here to reset and then build out my mana. This deck is playing a Stoneforge Mystic package. Typically you won't see it in other builds because it's just a little bit too hard to splash when you're trying to splash for a little bit more like black or red in the main deck. Hedge Maze. Okay, so it's going to be a bug style deck. I also didn't mean to 6 there because I did want to get Lush. So if I'm thinking about Wasteland, I want to use these 2 on the once and then hold up the Lush. Okay. Honestly, I don't mind Stoneforge here. But I don't really want to play into Daze, so I am just going to pass again with Lush open. Masters. Okay. Just gonna do this now and then 6. I'll keep that. I'll force it. Okay. I will still play the maze. I could hold it, but I think that if they have Wasteland, they have Wasteland anyway. Interesting. Going after my mana. This is where Kaldra can feel a little bit odd when you don't have protection for Stoneforge. Obviously, Force of Will is a whole different game, but it can definitely just allow you to kind of have a bit of an awkward hand. Ooh, Loam's pretty tough. What do we have for that? Yeah. Loam's gonna be really tricky. Could be Keen-Eyed. It could be Scrib just to keep mana going. I don't mind the Keen-Eyed. I feel like the Scribs kind of play to lose and the Keen-Eyed's like get a real threat into play and then play to win, which I don't mind. Scrib also open to a lot more removal. Not too much we can do there outside of the Wasteland lock. I like the chokes, I like the carpet and the prismatic. Teague's coming out. Liberator. Kaldra. Stoneforge. Mums. Mana Acceleration. Scrib. It could be the Thought Seizers, but I don't really know where they fit. I think just having extra removal and a little bit of mana denial, a little bit of mana acceleration is pretty nice. We were talking about the Mazavith as well being a 6th mana dork in Ignobled Hierarch, which would be pretty interesting, but I think even though we have lost the first 2 and we are down a game in this one, I think Maze is a little bit better than the 6th dork just because of its power against keeping Eldrazi and Frog especially from attacking. I think maybe there's a question as well of like with Mindbreak Trap, how many decks is Trap good against that Endurance and Ferromacabre don't hit currently? Okay, pretty happy to keep this. We're just going to start with the Lush. Okay. Interesting. Did not expect halfling. I kind of care about that. Tough one. I think I should have actually just played the fetch land to have a white source up here. I don't think I want to accelerate my mana, but at the same time, it would be pretty nice next turn to be able to potentially double spell. Interesting, they ponder off the Underground Sea, so they don't have like Fatal Push open here now. They might just have a Delighted Halfling in hand and know they want to cast that. Ghost Vacuum, okay. Pretty happy just to get Jitte here. I think Sword is just a little bit too much to try to set up. I don't want to get Cauldron either because it's just going to be dead in my hand most likely. Interesting, they play the Besieger as if they have an answer to the Jitte anyway. Leo. A little bit annoying. Question is, are they a Daze deck? I would love to use the swords here, but I also don't want to throw away a day, throw it into Daze. Can see. They didn't force that, and I feel like they know that we're not going, that we're, like, I think we can play the Jitte here, because if they had a Force of Will, they most likely would have used it to save the Leo, because they think they can't force the Jitte. Should have also got the Bayou there, I just misclicked. Pretty cool deck, so it's like a bug control deck. Or bug loam. Okay. That's fine. They miss a land drop, that's pretty huge. Sign like this. Give this +2/+2. And then we're just going to pass with Endurance and Swords Open. Endurance being a flash creature with the Jide in play here as well is quite nice. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure when declaring comes in or gets removed. I assume when Magic Foundations gets added to the program. I think in this spot as well, I'm pretty happy to get rid of their graveyard. Obviously the Misty there for Loam, but then potentially some other things. Okay. Attack with both. Hey Black Gear, welcome. Interesting. Definitely pump. I have a clock. It is a little bit slow, but we have a clock and some decent removal. I don't really want to swords either of these, but I also want to be able to have 4 mana next turn and get through with Stoneforge. Okay. I don't think we have an out to this either. Like we didn't keep anything in the deck that allows us to get rid of stuff. So that might be an issue, especially with our slow clock. Okay. I have 3 cards. Definitely get rid of Frog. Weird game. Kaldra, come on. No. Okay. I think this might just be Grist if it resolves. Yeah, typically having the mana each time is just a lot better. Like being a fair deck, you just sadly don't have the time to use a turn to create a food, untap, make a mana, untap, create a food, untap, make a mana. You really just want to have mana, 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 especially in like a days format. I think it's just Grist here. I did see like one of Goose in Green Sun's decks when Oko was a thing, but obviously that is quite different. But yeah, Birds just does exactly what you want in that it creates mana every turn, which is really nice. Ring. Pretty happy to remove their board. But the vacuum here is going to be tough, especially the ring finding them in the mana. Two, four, five. So most likely final in this turn, then have access to those things. So really it's just the ring that can kill them. Oh, they're flying as well. Okay. That can take out the mum. Yeah, Ghost's really good when you don't expect it. Because, yeah, obviously we didn't... I guess this deck doesn't really have too many outs. We do have Liberator, but I thought it wouldn't be this sort of... Yeah. It's just one of those things. Guess we lose the Grist next turn potentially because they're flying. Oh. Ah, there goes Sword of Fire and Ice. Which, to be fair, their creatures right now can block pretty well. They are 1/1s, that is very true. We can maze one if needed. No, we can't. It's a cool deck by them. Fatal Push, can't do anything there. I guess we could play, is it Homeward Bound? Homeward... Gain control of all There it is. Homeward Path. Each player gains control of all creatures he or she owns. Grist. I don't think it matters here. Even if we block 1, takes 3, yeah. If they took like a legendary creature of ours, we could Caracas it. That would be funny if they attacked with everything, and then we got Green Suns for an exalted creature next turn, attacked for 1 in the air, and then the ring got us. Ah, okay. That'll definitely do it. Tough. Definitely not the start I wanted, Carador. I apologize. A lot of grinding decks just really outgrind us. A lot of cards post 2012. I guess we do have Cauldron, and we do have Keen-Eyed and Grist, so we do play some Modern Horizons cards. But it's pretty funny, like if you take out like the Cauldron for Batterskull, the Keen-Eyed for like Ooze, remove the Grist, like the Nurturing Peatland, you pretty much have 2012 Mav, which is both sad, but also kind of cool. Yeah, it's tricky. I'm not too sure. The Cauldron, I think, could be something else. It's been a few games now where you really need the mum in the opener with Stoneforge to be able to protect it, or have something like Preformal Wear. But when you draw it, it's a little bit like drawing Dried Arbor. Questing Beast is interesting, especially if we do see more Planeswalkers in, say, Tameo, or even the Ninjutsu Planeswalker. But it is 4 mana, which is pretty tough. Yeah, Cauldron kind of makes this a 6, and then it's a case of like, is it once for a mana dork, and then try to get Liberator or Jide online pretty quick? I think there's a better 6. I guess we bottom the Cauldron. It kind of just follows us, which is really scary. Please don't entomb. That's all I ask. If I can ask one thing, that's it. Okay. You can Green Suns for it, which is 5 mana, which against a lot of the decks these days just is a little bit tough. Okay. Pretty happy with this start. Force Pitch Days. We get to follow up on basic next turn, which is nice. Interesting. I wonder if they're just really looking for mana here. I don't want to draw forest, so I'm pretty happy just to grab it now. Guess that is another forest potentially. Pretty happy just to hold up the endurance here. If I am scared of entomb lines, then that is what I want. So they're probably gonna miracle? No. Huh. Frog. I think here I'm actually happy to get Savannah, because what I kind of want to happen is Endurance gets dazed, and then before we untap they wasteland the Savannah, and then we get to play the Maze for the Frog. So I kind of want to bait out a wasteland here. Oh. Well, there's the wasteland still, which is nice. Interesting. Get rid of cards they don't want to put back into the deck. So I could have two ways to protect here, both Endurance Block and also Maze of Ith. I could also Peatland and just draw a card now, but it's a little bit tough because if I draw Swords or Mum, I want to have Plains open. If I draw Mana Acceleration, I want to have Forest open, which is where like having basics can be pretty tough. Could go after their mana as well. I don't mind that. But it does put them closer to being able to fly. I guess this does have it like, yeah. They shuffle. Okay. They play an island. They have 4 cards now. I kind of want to see them attack. Throw a bunch of stuff into it. Oh, they don't even do that. Wow. Okay. Once is pretty nice. I don't mind if they daze there. I think we just want Night. Tricky again here, because if I play the Maze, I can't play the Night next turn around days. But if I play a land here like Savannah, I can. I think I'm happy to play the Maze, but have a quick think. They didn't attack last turn, which means they don't want to discard what they have in hand. And maybe they think they can untap and then just remove this, so I think we will play it a little bit safe. Yikes. Don't mind seeing the spell bomb because that makes me know it's going to be like the slower version, or like the non-reanimate version, I believe. But it obviously negates the power of night here. I guess that's the thing as well. If you are the Maze of It deck, or Maze of Ish, Maze of Ith version of Mav, you kind of want to go for your jewels. To be fair as well, like they're a 4 Wasteland deck and they run multiple pieces of removal, so having both isn't the worst thing, but it's obviously tricky. I honestly just might try Thoughtseize in the board, especially on the play. Being able to take a threat is pretty great. This is the tough one. I think that Cauldron is just dead because they most likely have a removal spell. Sword of Fire and Ice is just a little bit too slow. And the Jide is just slow as well. I think it might just have to be Jide. And then I will just draw a card now to play around Bowmaster. Okay. And I think we're just holding up the knight here. Interesting, they're going to allow us to block potentially. Okay. I was going to say, oh, we have Crackers here for Tamiyo, but a little bit tough if we don't get to untap and Tamiyo still be Tamiyo. I will trade in the forest for a cradle. It's probably just a push. The Tamiyo also negates the Stoneforge from attacking, I believe. So if they get rid of the knight here, it's interesting. Another land isn't great. The big splash with black is Grist in the main deck, which is pretty free. And then you have Thoughtseize in the board, which has just kind of stood the test of time. I think here I'm happier just to keep the frog on the board. The 2 counters by itself isn't enough. But yeah, sadly, definitely a matchup where you really need to find Swords to Plowshares early on. Just to have some control over the board. Okay. Pretty happy to block. So if we draw swords, maybe we can get rid of the Murktide, attack, and then try to deal. But even then it's tough because they still have the frog. Yeah. Tricky. All right. Thoughtseizes, chokes, prismatic, carpet, Cauldra, Stoneforge, Liberator, Teague. Probably a knight. Sword's also pretty slow, but we do have carpet coming in, so potentially that could be okay. I don't mind going down on the knight and potentially an endurance. Don't want to have too many 3-drops post board. Okay. Can look for a mana dork. Okay. Play the forest, play the bird. Oh, they allow us to keep the choke. Interesting. I could Thoughtseize back. And then Green Suns again, potentially. Yeah. They left me with the choke for a reason. Yeah, okay. What do I really care about? I think it is the frog. Okay. And push. I mean, they have to force something, so we might as well make them force this. Pitch the day is. Don't want to show the wasteland. Really want to find a threat here. I don't think Thoughtseize is good enough. The wasteland here stops him from being able to go and get the Surveil land and untap with it. The Windswept Heath can't get Dryad Arbor. Did shuffle, which is good for us. Okay. Happy to eat. Just some stuff to keep a Murktide a little bit smaller. But also want to be weary of something like Force Ponder. Reanimate. Probably should have responded by eating frog. Yeah. Cantrips. Cantrips. Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, maybe grist just to clear the board, but keep the grist is pretty good. For some reason, I just didn't think that we would actually keep the grist, but obviously you do. I think just based off that, the correct decision is grist. Because I'd much rather have a grist in play than just... Like, if the plan is to get Noble Hierarch to attack to trade, then you might as well trade, but then not lose the Planeswalker. So 100% was just incorrect. Oh my gosh. All right. May I attack with it? Yeah, I think that it's just correct. I think Endurance is probably just my best draw because it's 3 mana plus 2 for equip. I probably do just want to do it now. I can't Green Suns for Grist because it's still a creature, so Grafdigger's Cage does stop it. Containment Priest is different. Containment Priest says if a creature would enter the battlefield, but once it's kind of entering the battlefield, it's, you know, not a creature. So, yikes. All right. We'll try. I actually wouldn't mind Boots in this deck instead. Lava Spur Boots instead of the Cauldron. They're thinking of forcing this just to keep a creature off the field. Sadly, it does not. Because Grist is a creature in all areas. Yeah, it's pretty sweet because you can find it off Urza's Saga as well. Hey, Freemium, welcome. Come on, just get in. Just get in. Please? Please? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What's good? It is so much effort to attack these days with any sort of creature against blue-black that getting that in is pretty funny. Barrogove's fine. That is going to eat us swords. They have the force. I don't think there's much that we could do. Really tough. Now we kind of have to finish it as an 05. We also knew they had a force because they were thinking about it with the Noble for a long time. Yeah, that's just lucky. Like, you didn't have the force, and then you didn't have the force for the swords. Or for the frog. Not much strategy to it. Tap out on turn 2 for a choke. And see if it gets you there. But I'm not too sure, like, what I've been missing tonight. Like, more removal, but like maybe Abrupt Decay, but that's like more the Abzan side. Obviously, Frog's just really tough to compete with as a fair deck. Kaldra, I would say, just hasn't really been stellar. Yeah, I was going to say Library. Like, I do miss it, but we have played against a few Orcish Bowmaster decks, which without your own Bowmasters isn't easy to remove from like a resource perspective. Hey, Past. Yeah, really brutal. We have got bashed, but I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Started a new job, which is cool. A little bit off Legacy, I will say. I think just like the summit weekends definitely do it for me. Like 7 streams in one weekend just kind of put me off Magic for a little bit. So it gets really tough because I feel like, not that I have to stream, but to have some sort of consistency, I want to get online. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind if I didn't stream until after Eternal Weekend wrapped up. Yeah, especially with the times as well. Like, it was like 11 p.m., 6 a.m., 11 a.m., 8 p.m., 11 p.m., 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and then the final at 7 p.m. All right. Ugh, no. Okay, we'll see how this goes. Hey Map, Too Kind, hope you're doing well, Mapson. We will keep this, and we're just going to bottom the night. Keep it pretty low and tidy. But yeah, it's tricky because, like, I know what I sign up for. I sign up for the fairer side of Legacy, so I can't complain. But there's definitely been a push towards some of the other decks in the format, for sure. I think the key moment for me was that if Leovold was Abzan colors, I think that could have potentially given Mav a little bit of a boost without really boosting any other decks in a meaningful way. I would have loved to seen that line. I think here we're pretty happy just to hold up the scrib. I feel like Abzan is Leovold. It kind of feels like that as well, with like the Spirit of the Labyrinth and like the black and ooh. Okay. So now we really want to work towards Jitte. Oh, but sadly not yet. I mean, if they have the Nadu, we can't do a whole lot here. So I think what we want to do is try to Green Suns for Dryad Arbor, and then get full value, attack with the Scrib Ranger. And then white, untap this, return this. Play this, and kind of hope they force the Mystic. Like, we don't actually care about it. Ah, damn it. I guess we get Kaldra. Finishes the game pretty quickly. But maybe just that one turn too slow. What cards creation banning do you think had the biggest effect on the deck? It's a really tricky one. I think it's just the culmination of there being so many outs to things now that, like, you know, Garrotig or Thalia on the board are more, I call them speed bumps, not stop signs. They used to be sort of stop signs for a lot of decks, but now they're just one thing that decks usually can deal with. This feels like a Green Suns. All right. Yeah, I think it's sad in a way. Like, I do find there's a lot of decks these days where you'll see in like the 5-0 bracket, but like 30 cards are kind of the same. Like, you have your Force Days, you have your Brainstorm Ponders, you have your Mana Base. There was a natural order, which I assume means they're going to be on Craterhoof. I think we'll just concede here. I don't want to make my opponent go through it all. I like the Prismatic. I like the Thought Seizers. That's probably it. Teague does stop natural order. Liberator can most likely come out. Kaldra is just a little bit too dead. Stoneforge for Jitte is real. Keen-Eyed, probably not good enough. Maze, not good enough. Yeah, Endurances can probably go as well. There's actually a lot of cards that can just kind of get out of there. Oh, Choke. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Yep, done. Thank you very much. I totally forgot they're a blue deck. Come on, Matador can choke. A lot of mana, but like, I guess we can move towards Green Suns for Grist, but is that good enough? They're a pretty slow deck, but like, they don't really lose to any Green Suns for 2 shenanigans. We don't even have like a Wasteland or a Swords. Okay, this is actually a lot better. Happy to keep this. Bottom of land. Once. I don't mind the Wasteland. That means we want to go for Bayou. Thoughtseize. Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to take that. I just meant to move this. Yeah. I guess it's not too bad. But I guess we'd have eaten the swords. At least they don't have a basic. That actually takes them off white, which is quite nice. I would say that I do like having Trop in the mana base for Leovold. I don't like because you always you draw it. You do draw it, and sometimes you don't have what you need to get there. I think here we like Windswept Heath for Lush. And we are just going to get rid of the Nomads right now. But I have definitely seen decks play Leovold without a blue source in the mana base. And I've seen decks with it 5-0. So there is like the risk versus reward where you still get to play Choke. Or you get to play Choke but not be hit by it. That is a white source. Okay, well now they have double white source. Lush. Interesting. Probably not good enough here. Just because of their creatures. That's interesting. I don't mind attacking here. The Quirion allows them to get around Green Suns. Like I could go for Green Suns Fatigue, but then they have the swords into Cord. Yeah, I think Snuff Out's really good. I think you kind of need it to some extent. Like just to keep up with the pace of the format. But then it's tough because Blue-Black is obviously one of the most played decks. And it doesn't hit Frog, doesn't hit Archon, doesn't hit Troll, Barragoyf. Pretty much all their threats. But at least, say like Critical Control can get away with it because they can just win before that really comes up. But now they have Cradle. 3, 4, 5, 6. They do have Cord for 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, they didn't even need to use the Quirion Ranger? I would love Zealous Persecution, that would be cool. Yeah, tough. I think that is just an 05. Rough. Thankfully, I can say 05s are pretty rare, but they definitely do come about. And a lot to consider because we played against all top decks. Like, if you want to beat the top decks, you got to play, obviously, that. Yeah, 110. But yeah, I think like it's pretty tricky for sure. A lot of the times Cauldron came up as like just a card now opener that may like was an additional mulligan, which is tough. Maze is nice, but I kind of like Maze in a version with Ramanap because then you have some insurance against Wasteland. And yeah, it was tricky. I feel like if you wanted to, like, if I wanted to take this back, I'll probably go, let's get rid of the Cauldron, and because we're getting rid of the Cauldron, let's drop a Stoneforge. Let's get Ramanap in, which kind of fills the role of the Knight number 4, which I like. I think you could also go down on a Endurance or 2, and then bring in like extra removal and like probably 1 or 2 Prismatics. If you are playing the Black Splash, you could also just go for Abrupt Decay, which is a little bit better. But I probably wouldn't change too much and then try it out and then do little adjustments. So yeah, definitely a tough one. But that actually was... Let me have a think of the matchups. It was Nadu for sure. Here we go. Nadu, Eldrazi, Blue Black twice, and then the Bug Loam. There we go. Yeah, really tricky. But learnt a bit as well, which is nice. I think for those matchups, like having the Gadok Teague in the main deck was better than the Collector Oof, especially against Eldrazi. The mums we didn't really see. We didn't really see much of like the Stoneforge package or like the once starts. I probably wouldn't mind having like a library in the deck, but at the same time, you don't want to be open to Bowmasters too much on both angles. But I do like having access to a decay. I think if you are going to bring in the decay, you're also probably going to go down on a forest and add in another bayou. You could go Scrubland, but you really want to have access to a lot of turn 1 green sources. 24 lands, but of course one is Maze. You could just go with the Ignoble Hierarch. I also wouldn't mind playing around with Zealous Persecution again. That card's always pretty cool. And because you have the decay, you could go down on like probably Force. The traps are tough because you really need to run into like a Storm deck for the traps to be relevant, or some sort of like Grim Monolith sort of Turbo Forge deck. And I think it is worth actually like putting in the time to think about like, okay, Ferromacabre and Endurance, we're covered by Graveyard, which sort of combo decks aren't going off through the Graveyard, through something like Gaia's Will, where Trap does come into consideration. So a lot to think about. But sadly not tonight, because it is nearly 11 and I gotta get some sleep. But a huge thank you to all of you for coming in and watching. A big thank you to the new subs and the new followers. I will most likely be back on Thursday with another version of Mav. Hopefully going better than this, but I think, yeah, as long as I take some learnings out of this, then it was definitely a meaningful league, which is nice. So I think I just need to put some thoughts down and yeah, think about where I would go from here in terms of this deck. So hope you all enjoy Tagores' stream. Catch you next time.